Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our virtual town hall meeting here on small business every Tuesday at noon time. We've been having this session, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's 2020. We're coming to the end. This will be our last town hall meeting for the small businesses of the 2020 year, and we'll also have one community conversation tomorrow night. But what a year! It's a year to remember. Clearly, it's the year of the mask and the COVID and all the related areas that that we need to, that we've been challenged with over the year. Many of the health issues, of course, we put the health issue as the top priority, and making sure people, make sure that staying safe. I think that's the main thing. That's why we're having these forums and meetings with different communities now about what role we can play, what role the civic leaders can play along with the elected leaders in the state to keep us safe. So that's the theme as we go into 2021. Our economy is not going to jumpstart fully until until we're safe and the vaccine is on the way. But we've got a lot of work to do before that takes before that affects a safe safety time frame for us in the state of Rhode Island. So, but I wanted to just talk quickly about again education and the small business, and so I'll start with the education one. Again, I want to remind everybody, many hours are being lost by our students in school because of the virtual hybrid models that are being used. The school districts and the other schools, whether they're private or public or mayoral academies or charters, are all doing everything they possibly can to make sure that the students are receiving the education that they need. But the fact of the matter is that we're losing hundreds of hours of learning time as we speak, whether you're high income, low income, moderate income, whether you're a minority or non-minority household. We're losing out. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we do everything we can to catch up on those hours. It's going to impact the education of students and the long-term earning power. It's going to impact their families, and of course, it's going to impact all 39 cities and towns, unless we're really intentional about addressing those lost hours. So what I've been saying for weeks has been, take a real strong look at what I did in Cumberland. I opened up a municipal education department. It's called the Mayor's Office for Children, Youth, and Learning. It's a 52-week-a-year learning academic opportunity for the students that live in our community. Reading and math skills, science, art, music, and theater, and leadership. Civic issues, civic lessons, and just general education. It's made a huge difference in our town. And that's something intentional, if we did in all 39 cities and towns, that we would be able to really catch up on a lot of these hours and really accelerate learning for all our young men and women, young girls, boys in the state of Rhode Island in a way that's really healthy and helps us. So that's something that we're going to keep on working on. On a similar front, on the education for those this on Sunday, President Trump signed in the new stimulus bill, and in that, some really good news for everybody is that the CARES Act funding, the 2020 CARES Act funding, the $1.25 billion that we've spoke a great deal about being able to use those dollars to grant funds to small businesses that have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19. Those now can be carried over into 2021. No longer do we have this hard deadline of December 30th to expend those dollars. Those dollars can be carried over. So all the headlines and all the dollars that have been allocated and attributed, the governor's attributed to helping small businesses, the good news is that there's millions and millions of dollars that have been allocated that have been, some have been awarded, but millions and millions of dollars are still available, and those dollars can carry over into 2021. And so I've been advocating on a letter that was recently sent to the governor to pool all the available dollars, all the dollars that have not been awarded, into a fund, and then do a Restore Rhode Island version 2. And that version 2 would include businesses that haven't been included up to this point in time, businesses that are opened up or didn't have, who are startups even in 2019 that didn't have the data, the competitive data, include them in, along with all the businesses that currently have been able to qualify for Restore grants. But let's do it in a version 2. Let's make it simpler. But the good news is that we have time. And I put up this Jim Russett sign, the one that did the Florida outcome back in 2000 election. And just to illustrate to everybody what we're talking about here. And there's 3 A's that we need to be concerned about. 3 A's, buckets of money. All right. And in the 3 A's, we've got the dollars that have been allocated, the dollars that have been awarded to small businesses, and the dollars that are available. And the early information really points to, as one example, the PAWS grants, right? And I'll write that down. But the PAWS grants, it shows early on in the information that of the 70 million, there are millions of dollars that were awarded, somewhere in the range of 35 million to 40 million, right? But when we subtract that number, we're looking at somewhere between 30 and 35 million dollars. Somewhere between 30 and 35 million dollars is still available. And now we've had many headlines that have been positive about distributing dollars, allocating these dollars. Now it's time to deliver on those headlines, and then to really pool those dollars that were appropriated, allocated to help the small businesses that are still available. We still have time. That's really good news. We got time. We're not heading this December 30th date any longer as a hard deadline date. So with that, I think that we'll have a relatively brisk and abbreviated show for the New Year's. We'll kind of reflect a little bit on what happened in 2020. Focusing mainly on the business, but also in other areas I has done, I've mentioned in health and education as well. And then looking forward to a 2021 that is, really positive and takes us in a trajectory to really move the state forward in a way that everybody, we all can participate in the economic recovery and the making sure that our families are healthy. My mom lives with us at 90-ish, and we're really cautious about my mom and all our health. So we're hoping that trend changes. We're looking to do our normal celebrations that have been put on hold, whether they're weddings or graduations. We all look forward to a 2021 that's going to be real positive. So share the program out. If you have any questions, you can email me. Ben has put up that email address, and of course our phone number will be posted as well. So Ben, please bring on Joe and Matt, and this is great. So I don't know whether we got. I'm glad. Thank you very much. Liz would not be happy if we start entering into this new year without being really diligent about these matters. So before we get into like the DLT stuff and the other things that, give it a little reflection on 2020, Joe. Just give it, and then Matt, do the same thing in terms of not professionally, but also personally.
Sure. That's, I guess the thing that really has impacted me the most this year, it's been said on here before, is my wife's reaction. I think to me has been something I'm proud of and try to emulate. She had 3 or 4 hours of training to be an ICU nurse and take care of only COVID patients at a time when little was known medically about the disease. And I think she sort of looked at it as her responsibility for all of us. And so I try to approach everything, both understanding what other people are going through right now, but with the mindset towards, we do the things we do to pull together as a society, no matter what viewpoint you have, political background you have. I think that's the way we got to be approaching things these days. And, it's not just to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It's come together and help everyone, just to understand that, hey, none of us are alone. No matter how much we're alone in our homes or with just our own families, we're not alone. So I probably emulated her less than I could. So I'll keep trying to do better. And that's my compelling thought for 2020.
Well, your family with Kara and Lila, you do live it every day, Joe. We're all in some form living the this pandemic and the impact that it's had on us. And I know I've been following the work that you've been doing and your wife has been doing in particular. So you speak for thousands and thousands of those frontline workers out there that are doing the work. And as a former mayor, working with our first responders, whether it was police or whether it was rescue or our fire, I've grown over time to have an inordinate amount of respect for the work that they do. So hats off to your wife as well, Joe. But he also had an opportunity to grow a beard too, right?
Also true. And I've stopped doing it. I'm not trying to catch up to Matt or anything, but I'm
Well, thanks, Joe, for being here with us. You've helped many, many people through, not only on this call, but during the time frame when we've been interacting. I know even in your own world, your own legal world, you're helping people out, but also I know in our office you're helping many, many people get through this, and that's the whole idea, is to come out of this safe and healthy and in a good state of mind to move, to move forward into a 2021. Matt, give us a little of your personal perspective on things.
Sure. My personal life, things have been a challenge like everyone else, but I'm fortunate to also live with, a wife who is a hardworking, smart, and great person, and much nicer than I am, and who is an educator in a public school, and who has, in the beginning, had to work through, a virtual platform with kids that maybe don't necessarily have all the equipment that they need or the people at home that can help them. And so she's really had to go the extra mile and has done that every day. And so I applaud her. And I have 3 kids who have been impacted by the pandemic in different ways. 2 of them in elementary school who have gone through virtual learning and then now go in person, but for their break. And then my oldest, who started college this year and had a freshman first semester unlike one that any of us have ever experienced. And who seems to have done so past with flying colors, which is great, but didn't really get to immerse himself in the college experience like we hope he would and will in the future. And then the only other personal thing is my sister is a healthcare professional. She's a nurse practitioner and works every single day to help people that have COVID or that are dealing with COVID or other related health issues. So, of course, I'd like to learn from her as well and thank her and all the healthcare frontline workers, in addition to the first responders and everyone else. Somebody this week emailed me and said, not enough people thank all of the people that have been working really hard. They thank the sometimes first responders and they forget about healthcare, or they forget about educators, or they forget about people processing unemployment claims and everybody that's had to pick up their tool and get into the game. I want to thank all of them. I think we've all gotten through this together because you've brought us together, Governor, and because we've had the opportunity to get to know one another. But it takes many instruments to make an orchestra, right? And so that's what I tell everybody. Everybody's got to play their part and do the best they can do. Yep. And so thank you. Professionally, it's been trying, without a doubt. I'm a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker. I've worked harder in the last 9 or 10 months than I ever thought I could. And because I feel so terribly bad for the people that are left behind that need help. And so being able to work at home, being able to work from a laptop and help people has been a great experience, but it's also allowed me to get into the unemployment system in a way that I never have. I'm an administrator at DLT. I'm an executive office employee that helps run the department, but I'm responding to claimants like I'm a frontline unemployment insurance worker. And it's really given me the opportunity to see our world through their lens and to help them make meaningful changes to make our jobs easier and to make the experience better for customers. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, Matt, and I'll tell you two things that I'll reflect personally on what you've just said. My wife Susan's also a teacher, retired, but still doing, every day, a half a day or so, reading helping kids learn how to read, learning the whole virtual routine. I've known all along how difficult it is to be a teacher and to actually make that work happen, but it got more difficult this year, right? And so that's why I opened up every one of the programs recently with the education thing, because I know that hours and hours and hours, and it's not to no fault of the school districts or the teachers. They are working harder today than they have ever worked, and yet we know that we've got responsibility to the kids. That's why I keep on talking about this municipal education department strategy that I think will take off eventually. And then the other one, which you say professionally, I think it has been an opportunity to really get on the ground level with the people that we serve. You've done that extraordinarily well with your whole staff, with the interactions you've had to have on the calls. You're still getting that 1,000+ calls a day, I'm sure. And we've been able to, months ago, we've been having our staff meeting every morning at 9 o'clock. Joe joins that in as well. And, but a few months back, as it's time to get out of hibernation, and we got out into every community, met with small businesses personally, listened to their stories in a way that only if you do that, do you, are you kind of understanding, what is happening on the ground level. We professionally know what we need to get done, but boy, there's no substitute for that eyeball to eyeball type of interaction. So,
of course.
Yeah. So let's get on to, you've got more challenges. I was mentioning earlier that the president has signed that stimulus bill. It triggers a number of things on the unemployment and many questions that Joe is going to want to ask you as well. In addition to triggered, from the small business perspective that we go over here, it's triggered a time frame, a more workable time frame, potentially to get millions and millions of more dollars out of those CARES Act dollars. That again, it's the same thing there with Commerce or Division of Taxation, Matt. They've all been working extraordinarily hard to get the funds out, but there was only so much time to do it, and they ran out of time. If December 30th was the deadline date for distributing those grants, we know that now you can go into the new year, so that there's a whole bunch more opportunity there. But on the unemployment issues, whether it has to do with anything business related or individual related, give us as best update as you can. And I think Joe will have a couple.
Well, rather than surprise you with questions, Matt, I'll say the number one thing we're hearing is, the timing of signature after expiration of benefits. What impact does it have on this week for employers and employees? And that's just kind of the general piece we're hearing a lot about, a lot of confusion on.
Sure. And there was plenty of confusion yesterday. We had the opportunity to participate in a national call with the Department of Labor, and the tone that they had set in the morning was not good, but the tone by the afternoon, they had changed their position. And the good news is that there will not be a lapse or a gap, in that they have interpreted the timing in a way that because our benefit year, like almost everyone in the country, begins, our benefit week, begins on a Sunday, that it was signed the same day, so we're able to move forward. So my theme for claimants this week is a Little Nemo based theme, which is to just keep swimming, just keep certifying. On Sunday, certify your claim. That will solve almost everyone's problem. There will, of course, be some people who, when they try to certify, they get a message that their social security number can't be found. Those are the ones that we're going to have to help, but the vast majority should be fine when they certify on Sunday. So if you are on the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, that is the new unemployment program for gig workers, for self-employed people, for 1099s, you can keep collecting. That program was now extended. There's an artificial end date that's March 13th in Rhode Island. But if you're already on a claim at that time and you have a balance in your account, meaning you still have weeks to collect, you can wind that claim down through April 10th. Let's see, they also added weeks to the claim. So it was a 39-week program, and now it's a 50-week program. So we're working on that. In the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, which we affectionately refer to as PUC, that program was a 13-week federal extension, which was added to regular unemployment claims, not pandemic claims. That was 13 weeks to bring the regular claims up to the same number of weeks as the pandemic claims, 39 total. That was now increased from 13 to 24. We're working to make those changes. However, the program expiration date, which was previously 12/26, is now 3/14. And the same thing, if you're collecting from a puke claim and you have the ability, you can still collect because you have a balance of credits, meaning you have money in your account. You can continue to do that through April 10th. The other important parts of that were obviously the $300 boost is back. That's the FPUC program. It was $600 before, now it's going to be $300. That will be going out with the certifications that begin on Sunday. So this week is the first payable week. On Sunday, people can request that payment, and it will be part of their regular payment every week between now and March 14th. All unemployment insurance claimants, no matter what program you're collecting from, including WorkShare. The other thing is WorkShare itself, which was 100% federally funded through December 26th, will now be federally funded through March 13th. I'm sorry. Couple other things. The reimbursable employers, which are nonprofits or public employers, they have the ability to forego the payroll tax that private sector employers pay, but they have to pay unemployment insurance claims dollar for dollar once they're filed. That has been funded at 50% by the federal government throughout the pandemic. That will continue until March 14th. So the feds pay 50%, and the what we call reimbursable pays the other 50%. I think those are the big issues. There are some other things that people may hear about. We are going after all those things I said first. Because of the work we've done throughout the pandemic, we're ready. We're not waiting for guidance from the federal government, who said they may get it out next week. We think that Rhode Islanders need their money this week. And so because of that, we're immediately going to pay them as soon as we can, which is when they begin certifying on Sunday.
Yeah, well, that's good news in terms of what you were saying, and that's not going to be a lapse. So, we know there's thousands of people that need those dollars, and that's good news, Matt. And you feel as though that you're in a position to make sure that there's no, there's not a skip on time at all. You're going to be able to stay current.
We're ready to go. As soon as the certification window opens, we will be ready.
Great. Well, that's great. Joe, do you have any more questions? I think that was one of the main things that have been talked about, right?
That's the big concern. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Matt, but because of that interpretation, it won't lead to a lapse either, where the employer's rate will be hit. That'll continue to be federally funded even in this week that we're in now.
I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, Joe.
The USPOL interpretation you talked about will also result in, not just for the employee, but for the employer, the week that we're in now isn't considered a lapse. So any federal funding that applied to those benefits will continue to apply in the week.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And we still have waived the charges to Rhode Island employers anyway.
Yeah.
And we'll continue that.
Understood. Thank you.
And somebody just put a comment in about other states. There are other states that are waiting for the guidance. Unemployment is, as much as I've tried to say it's complicated, it's far more complicated than anybody could ever imagine. And what happens is Congress passes a bill, it gets signed, becomes a law. Then the bureaucrats at the Department of Labor have to go through like 15 iterations of guidance, which change the rules. And so our job is to get the money out the door and to comply with the guidance and as we think it should be written. And then we can deal with the federal government later. A lot of states have been trained to wait. And so there were states, Governor, that like last month started paying the FEMA money that we paid all out back in August and September. We don't think it's a wise decision to make claimants wait for someone to act. We would rather pay now and deal with it later.
Yeah, that's one thing I think that when we look back, Matt, we're going to see that Rhode Island really, really led the charge as quickly as could possibly happen in terms of the benefit issues that came through your office. And we know that, yourself and the staff there, really stepped up. So, thanks for doing that. Ben, you got something?
Hey, Matt. I do. I have one question right now, and it's just more clarification from the East Providence Chamber of Commerce. Is this week's unemployment payment delayed?
The answer to that generally is no. Most claimants would get the payment in the same amount of time that they usually would. We've always said payments can take 48 hours, and some banks get them to people sooner. And so they expect every week they'll get it sooner. What happens is we pay through a clearinghouse, essentially. once that payment went on time, once the clearinghouse sends it out to the banks, their schedule may be a little bit different. We did hear there's one issue, which is with the payment cards that we issue. You can elect to have direct deposit, and most people do. Some people use a payment card that we issue, which is through a bank called Key Bank. There was a minor issue with that file with Key Bank. They are processing those now. There might be a 1-day delay in those payments, which means that they'd probably get it Wednesday instead of Tuesday. Other than that, everything was on schedule.
Well, that's great, Matt. Thank you for being here through this year, and and thank you, staff, again. I think that it goes without saying that it's very much appreciated. And I can tell you that we know that hundreds and hundreds of people are through this broadcast that Ben helps us facilitate. Thank you, Ben. It's reaching a lot of people. So just give one more reminder how we can reach your office if people are looking to reach your office.
Sure. So the phones are so busy, it's unbelievable. That's the number, 415-6772. We are helping 1,500 unique people a day. Yesterday, there were 43,000 calls into the call center. And so we put almost everybody on phones, to the detriment of other things that have to get done. But we know people need to speak with someone. I'm urging you, if you're looking for general information, please look on our website. If you're going to call in, that's going to take away from somebody who really needs to have an issue fixed. And so you're going to get busy signal, or not, you won't get a busy signal. You may get, we're busy at this time, please try again later. You may get something like that. I say try late in the day. Everybody should try calling at 5 o'clock or Saturday mornings when it's not that busy. But if you can go to our website, you can find a lot of info. If you're on this session and you have a problem with a claim, contact ltgov20@gmail.com. They will then get in touch with me and I will help you out. My auto reply had to be changed. I am going to get out of the business of directly servicing customers because I have some management duties that I have to get back to. I am still obviously going to help the people involved with this session and the people involved through the governor's office here. So please reach out to them and I'll help you.
Yeah, Matt, and if you just do simple math, even if you're answering the phone 10 hours a day, 43,000 calls, that's 4,300 calls an hour, and you bring that down to minutes. I mean, I think people could get a sense of the extraordinary workload that's there. So, follow Matt's, advice. Go to that website, see whether you can get answers to your questions before you make the call, and then also, certainly contact our office if you're not getting, answers, and then continue to make calls. But don't get frustrated because that's 4,000 calls an hour. That's a lot of calls, and so you would need a lot of callers. Even if you had 100 people answering the phone, right? They still would have to be doing like 40 calls each in an hour if you had 100. And I'm sure you don't have 100, Matt.
Not quite, but we have more than we ever did. So
yeah, okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt, and Happy New Year. Peaceful
Thank
and
you,
healthy
too.
To you and your family. Appreciate all.
Thank you very much. You too, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. You too.
Yeah. So, Joe, Mark is not able to be with us today, but I think that's okay. He'll be here next week about the upcoming PPP programs, the small business programs, the loans, and other things like that. I don't know if there's anything that you want to put on the table, or do you think we just wait for Mark to come in with some of those details?
Yeah, I think the important things to do now that the signatures come through, right, are reach out to, if you had a partner in the first round and you think you may qualify for a second, reach out to your financial institution that helped you the first time around. Make sure that they're going to be lined up and ready to go. Mark mentioned we are waiting for regulations. Those are supposed to be done within 10 days. I believe that 10 days moves forward a little bit, but in addition to reaching out to your financial institution, the other piece to keep in mind is that there's a lot of the comparison now is going to shift from fourth quarter calendar 2019 and fourth quarter calendar 2020. So whatever your financials are, to make sure that you're going to qualify, that the triggering point is a revenue drop of 25% in that fourth quarter in the bill. So we're waiting for more specifics on the regulations, but reach out to your financial institution and make sure you have a handle on what your fourth quarter was like in 19 and what it'll be like this year in 2020, just to be prepared and figuring out whether you're going to qualify.
Yeah, and I think that anybody who's watching and listening, again, use our email address. As you have questions that come up between now and next Tuesday, so that we're prepared when Mark comes on to share those questions with him in advance. And that way we can, get you the up-to-date information. But thank you, Joe, for sharing that. I think that just, preparing as you just suggested makes all the sense in the world right now. So
Thanks, Joe.
Yep. Thanks, Joe. Happy New Year to you. Yeah. So both Joe and Matt, have been a blessing for us. My next guest here with Chris Parisi. Chris, come on. We're talking about the coalition, but I'm asking everybody to kind of give a little reflection. You had a really good personal year as well. Many blessings to be counted in your world, right?
Oh yeah, 2020 was quite the year for me personally. I got to tell you, planning a COVID wedding was not easy. But the wife and I, we are a great partnership, and we got through it and was still able to have that wedding and share that special moment. It may have not been the wedding we originally planned, or the second wedding we planned, or the third wedding we planned, but it was perfect at the end of the day. We were with our closest family and friends, and we still got to celebrate that special moment. And we also got a house and a dog within a few weeks of the wedding too. So we did it all at once. And, I'm very blessed to still have those special moments, during this crazy year. But professionally, it was tough, obviously, as a small business owner. We were hit hard in the beginning of the pandemic. We were able to retain all of our clients, fortunately, but it was still, tough for us. And, some of these programs helped initially, but since we were doing fine, that's how I was able to be like, hey, how can I help all of these small businesses? And through your leadership and connecting the community, we hopped on that phone call, it seems like, I don't know, 5-6 months ago. And I was in my old place back then. And then, the coalition formed. And that's definitely one of the positives in this, catastrophically negative year, is the formation of the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition. And everything through your leadership and through the coalition's advocacy, we were able to fight for the small businesses, give them a voice when they, really weren't being heard. And we're really fortunate to come together as a group, whether it was fighting for that CARES Act that turned into the Restore RI grant, or the continuing advocacy that your office and the coalition has been, doing every day since. And what's really special is that, this isn't a pandemic coalition, right? This is a small business coalition that's here to stay and here to support the small businesses in Rhode Island for many years to come.
Definitely, Chris. And, so congratulations on your wedding. And, it does bring a smile to your face. And as we're actually in our family now, there's a wedding being planned. My son and his fiance are planning a July wedding, and they're wondering whether it's going to be 25 or 50 or 100 or 200. So they're going through the same thing in a little different cycle, but it is a blessing, that life does move on, and good things happen even in tough times. So I'm happy for that. And then also, to have your leadership, with Justin and Laurie in particular, but also now there's, dozens of people who are like contributing now in terms of the thought process and how we can make 2021 work. And we're starting to explore some ideas that other states are doing, not just on the grant strategies, but also on, there are some states right now that are providing, levels of exemptions on penalties for taxes that haven't been paid, that aren't in the budget, those penalties, and potentially some interest. And so I think that's one of our next steps, is really to pursue.
Ben, did we lose Lieutenant Governor? I think we might have here. So while we lost Lieutenant Governor, one thing I can do is update everyone on the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition. We meet every Monday, and we had another meeting this yesterday, and we talked about the pause grant. All right, looks like Lieutenant Governor, I think you may be back here.
Yeah, I am.
Okay,
I think I am. Yeah, I was buffering with you. I don't know whether it was my machine or yours, but we're learning a little bit more about this technology. But yeah, give us an update on that, because like I was mentioning, we have those 3 buckets of money that are out there, the allocation, the awards, and what's available. And we know that on the pause, if you look at the the data that's coming out right now, that you could pretty much estimate that there's a sizable amount of money that got distributed, 35, 40 million potentially. But there's also 30 to 35 million that is left in that pause. And we'd love to see a Restore Rhode Island version 2, where we, address some of the things shortfalls that happen. But there's a substantial amount of money there that I think that is really important for us to be advocating for. I'll just end with, saying that there was many positive headlines about large sums of money that were going to go out in grants. Now it's time to deliver on those headlines.
Exactly. And that's just one program that you mentioned, right? As you alluded to,
Yep.
Tens of millions left in one program. Well, let's do the accounting on all of these other programs. The governor mentioned that, hey, we get that the allocation is taken care of, but what about the actual money spent into the hands of these small businesses? Take the pause grants. These pause grants were announced before Thanksgiving, and we still have businesses to this day after Christmas that did not receive checks. And some of these restaurants, the checks that receives is a slap in the face. $500 for a business that has tens of thousands of fixed expenses per month is not going to cut it. And that's why we're advocating, is because we're hearing these horror stories from businesses of why does the state not get it, in some cases. And I don't want to generalize. There's a lot of great departments and a lot of great folks in the state. But at the end of the day, our small businesses are suffering. And some of these programs are just not helping out these small businesses. And that's why we're fighting for them, so that they can continue to stay open and that we can continue to have small businesses as a key part of our economy. So that was one thing that we talked about yesterday, is these pause grants still not receiving these checks. The checks receiving are still not enough, and it's like pulling teeth. Another thing that we talked about is what you just mentioned, right? There's tens of millions of dollars left into these businesses that was allocated for small businesses. All we're asking for is, what is the up-to-date, accurate accounting? We need that. We need General Assembly, and we know we have a few key members there on our side supporting for small businesses. Obviously, Senator Palmer's been with the Lieutenant Governor's office and coalition as a supporter in his community for small businesses. And we're reaching out to all of General Assembly members and asking to, hey, hold the governor accountable with this $1.25 billion, and let's just see where it was spent and see which money is left, so that we can ensure that it's being fulfilled, right? We're spending it and giving it into the hands of these small businesses. That's all we're asking for. So those are two of the key things that we talked about on our weekly coalition call yesterday.
Yeah, so the good news is the new news, which is there's not a hard deadline of December 30th, and we'll get something out today to make sure that that's widely known, because last week the governor had mentioned that December 30th was the hard deadline. Well, that's not no longer a hard deadline, which gives us the opportunity, Chris, to really lobby on behalf of the small businesses in this case to take those dollars that have been allocated but still available to go into like a Restore version 2. And I was on a call today with a business that they didn't qualify for the Restore because they were a business that opened up as a startup in 2019, and they didn't have revenue to compare against on the loss of revenue, the 30% loss of revenue that we needed on the Restore grant. Well, let's include them in a time frame that will allow more and more businesses to apply for the gross amount of dollars that we can put in the mix. And then, look, there's not going to be ever a perfect distribution strategy, but we can get an equitable distribution strategy and make sure that every business, that meets the criteria can get something, because any dollars right now into their hands, Chris, it buys time. And we know it doesn't solve the whole problem, but it does buy time. Maybe it buys time to the PPP, the SBA programs. It buys time. And right now, and you've said publicly many times that, how many businesses who didn't get the funds that they could have got on time are not in business now because they couldn't buy that time.
Without a doubt. And we want to ensure that since it was extended, but that does not mean the governor can hold on to the money in 2021, right? These small businesses need this cash ASAP. We're going to hear of more closings once this month is over, not making it into the new year. So we need to get the cash into the hands of the small businesses swiftly and easily as soon as possible, January. So we want the accounting as soon, like the end of this week, the end of, as soon as we can, so that we can see how much money is left to be spent for small businesses. And then what is that plan to get that money into the hands of small businesses? How we're doing it now hasn't been smooth. So we need to ensure that it's more smooth than what's currently going on and less chaotic, more organized. And we can help. The state commerce, the governor, she can speak to the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition. It would be great if she would speak to you directly too, and talk to the folks that are in the trenches that really understand what's really going on with small businesses, so that when they roll out programs, maybe it could work on the first time. They don't need all these reiterations and revisions to a program 3 days into the program, for instance, like the grant program. So that's another suggestion is, hey, let's talk to the people, talk to the small businesses that are dealing with it, that are in the trenches.
Yeah, and Chris, I just finish up on that and then have you comment, and we'll talk about supporting small businesses, going forward as well. But I was talking to someone today who was saying that, they just read the headlines. And that's why I'm saying it's time to deliver on the headlines. And they say, Rhode Island's done so well by the small businesses. The headlines, gives a description that, millions of dollars have been allocated. But without that accounting report you talked about, the general public doesn't know that there's millions and millions of dollars that are still available. So that's why I'm saying it's time to deliver on the headline.
I agree 100%. I mean, I had, colleagues speak to me, hey, you guys got $100 million. That's great. We're like, well, no, it was only 50 million. And out of that 50 million, it didn't even help the few that it was designed to help. And there's still tens of millions of dollars left to be spent. So, let's communicate directly to the people, share the word, make sure the message is very clear so that all Rhode Islanders are aware of what's going on, because small businesses are so important to every and each community. And that's why we're fighting for them. And obviously there's so much we can do. Everyone has a part. I actually just spoke to a 6th grade, 7th grade class. They had me come on because they were so concerned about small businesses. I thought it was wonderful. These young kids were concerned, what can we do to small businesses and how we can help, and I spoke to them, which I was just so happy that they cared about that at such a young age. But one thing I communicated to them and communicate to all of my friends and colleagues is we all have an impact. And buy local is not just a cute saying. It's real. We have to make that concerted effort to choose local, to buy local whenever we can. Putting more money in the hands of the Walton family is not going to help out Rhode Island, right? The Targets, the Amazons, that's not helping out our local economy. But when you purchase something locally from a family that owns something, in a neighborhood next to you, that's how we can help. So we can all do our part, and not just in the advocacy, but also through our actions with our purchases to ensure that we're buying locally and supporting small businesses.
Yeah, and so Chris, thank you so much for your leadership, along with Justin and Laurie and others that are, involved, because as you said, early on in our interview here, the good news is that the coalition is formed to advocate for these timely and time sensitive issues like the grants and other things. But long term, there's an advocacy there that, quite frankly, I've been trying to put together for several years and have not been able to really successfully put a group together to advocate on behalf of the small businesses. We're going to get into the advocacy, down the line. And I know that, there's a effort to actually formalize this coalition. So, people out there who want to support the idea of a small business coalition, contact our office. We'd love to have you involved, and certainly love to have your involvement, whether it's volunteering or whether it's actually contributing, because small dollars right now contributed into this organization is going to pay big dividends down the line, Chris. I'm looking forward to working with the coalition over the next few years and beyond. So
thank you very much. And just one last thing. I mean, Lieutenant Governor, you haven't missed one of these, weekly town halls. So we appreciate that. And I know I only missed one or two because of the wedding, or else I would have got divorced before I was even married. But, one individual that has not missed any of these, he's behind the scenes. And some of you may see him sometimes. That's Ben Barber. He's an incredible human being. He's been doing these from the get-go, and there's always a lot of technical issues. He helps us through all of them and coordinates it and doesn't miss a beat. He's had a very, difficult loss over the weekend. And I just wanted to let Ben know that the community just supports him, loves him. I love him, and that we're all behind you and here for you. And the small business community really appreciates everything you're doing, because without you, we wouldn't have this platform to share the message. So thank you, Ben, and we're all thinking of you.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Happy New Year to you and your family.
Happy New Year.
You bet. There's much to celebrate. This is the time to count our blessings. So thanks so much for being with us all through the year, and then we'll get together at the beginning of next year.
Cheers to a better year ahead. I'm feeling hopeful.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so I mean, that coalition, if you haven't joined, if you're a small business and you haven't joined that already, go to rismallbusiness.org. Sign up. I know that thousands of businesses have. We have several hundred, if not thousands, of businesses already in there, and that's going to be, as Chris said, that's not even going to be that's going to be a vehicle for time-sensitive issues right now, but beyond. It's time that Rhode Island small businesses are, heard on more on the state and the local level. If we have learned one thing during this pandemic, it's the importance of the small businesses to our communities. And so I think, Ben, I'm not sure, we might have one business. If not, we'll I think we do have business. Okay, good to see you. Justin, thank you for being here. The beat goes on for our small businesses, and we're coming up against the new year, so we have a little bit of a shortened show today, but I really appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit about your business and some of the challenges and the hopes that you have. But I've been asking all my guests to kind of share their personal experience as well. What has this meant to you and your family and your closest friends? What type of impact has this last year had on you personally?
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. It means a lot, and just like everybody, it's been a difficult and trying time on so many levels. But this is what we do. We adapt and find a way to keep moving forward. And it really does mean a lot to see what the community actually is for small businesses and governments alike, to a point. And it's amazing. My wife and I opened a business about 4.5 years ago called Hardcore Hobbies. We're the only retail hobby shop specializing in remote control cars, trucks, drones, planes, boats, things of that nature. And we're fighting some pretty large competition on the global scale, not so much on the state level. And we started with practically nothing, and we have moved locations twice now, and it's becoming a very stable business up until recently.
Yeah.
We've had some trying times ourselves, and it was really difficult. And now I'm actually seeing the disconnects between governments and businesses, and how it can be fantastic and it can be catastrophic at the same level.
Yeah, so tell us where your business is located, Justin, and give us a little bit more background on your business, and then I want to talk a little bit about the things that have happened that have been helpful, and some of them that we could be doing better at.
Of course.
Where you're located and the type of retail? Is it a retail operation as well?
Well, we fall on like a split. We're on 1278 Newsnack Hill Road in Coventry, Rhode Island. We are considered a retail, but we're also kind of partial to recreational also. We have a couple of RC tracks on our premise. So track fees, birthday parties, that's been cut out of our source of income for sure recently. And that was a pretty big hit.
Describe what those birthday parties look like. What would somebody could expect if they had a birthday party at your shop? What would that look like?
I mean, it ranges from the ages of 5 to 15 or so, but then you see the parents kind of take over the remote off the kids and tend to
Is it like that ever-ready battery ad that's going out with these, going down the track and all? Or?
Yes, exactly. So it is fun for all ages. You get some great mechanical skills too, because you don't play with it, you also fix it. That's the grand scheme of things, and we have created an amazing community of customer base, and it is a family. When you walk into the store, it's people are taken back by the camaraderie and the family community that we have there.
Yeah. So Justin, I've been talking about education for a lot of years since I've been a mayor. I was elected a mayor in 2000 in Cumberland, and I was a mayor there for 12 years and worked a lot on education. And I've been starting to talk about these time frames. First of all, and we've got a very critical time frame for our young men, women, and boys and girls in our state because of the lost learning time. And that's going on because of the COVID, and to no fault of the district schools and everybody's running these schools. I still serve on a school board of a school that I helped start, a public school. And so I'm very aware that, the workload that's happening with the parents and the teachers and the administrators and the students themselves, Justin. But one of the thoughts that I have, and you just triggered that with me because you just said that there's a mechanical component to your work. And so you provided a tremendous opportunity. So we opened up this education department in my mayor's office. It's probably one of a kind in the country. I don't know anybody that's running the same, but we're doing art and music, and we're doing math and science and robotics, which is probably in the area a little bit you're talking about in terms of that type of thing. So this is what I'm talking about right now. We should be partnering in with our local businesses with a municipal education department outside of the school day. Would kids only spend 12% of their total hours in a year in a school. So 88% of the time is spent out of school. So what an opportunity we have. And you just mentioned something that triggered in my mind a great learning opportunity in terms of like the robotics of it and what's going on there. So that you just kind of triggered in me like another thought about how these municipal education departments could help young people learn.
Absolutely. We do it every year. There's probably 2 or 3 projects a year. I know immediately from the first question that is asked, I say, can I see your criteria? And then it's a single AA battery, has to revolve this many times, get a certain distance. And by the second or third customer, I mean, it's great. I already have like a plan for them. You can do it this way, or this way. And I love doing that. That's my passion, to be honest with you.
You really work in physics when you start talking about those issues. I kind of was always challenged by physics, and I always like to be solving the problems, those math problems and those equations. And that's what you can bring to the table, Justin, because we're going to need that education piece and we're going to need to supplement it. But we're also going to need to support our small businesses. So it's a good match.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us what you think you need at this point in time to get back, in motion in the right direction.
So the biggest obstacle that my wife and I have had when we first opened our shop 4 years ago, I actually had some health issues, which I didn't know. And while I was actually incapacitated in a coma, I missed a payment of sales tax. We were going off the ri.gov site for our state sales tax. And I just found out as of 2 weeks ago that site is antiquated and don't go off of that site. Even though all the payments we were paying, it was showing completed and we thought we were up to date. The payments we were making were not adequate to what we owed, which I find out now. So we just lost about $90,000 in grants for the adaptation grant and the Restore RI. And we also lost, we also have a loan on the table. The Division of Taxation will not release our letter of good standing to register with the Secretary of State. And with that being the Achilles for our entire issue. And from what I found out, that letter has been given with the same exact situation I am in, depending on what business or person you are friendly with. And that really hurts me so bad in my family. And we really just, we lost a huge opportunity to expand and grow our business because that one particular person will not give that letter to the Secretary of State. Yeah. Is there anything that we can do? Oh, and on top of it, the $6,000 of sales tax that we now owe, that we've been on a payment plan with, there is an additional about $20,000 on top of that for penalties and interest.
Well, that's why you heard me talking about that before you came on, and we're exploring that, you know, that penalties and that type of thing. We're in extraordinary times. You do extraordinary things, and it would seem as though that we need to really take a hard look, Justin. So we're going to follow through with you on your particular case. We've done that many times with other businesses, but you represent a story that is getting repeated to me in our office over and over again. When you run through a time frame like this, and by the way, so I'm a small business person, and I've shared this before. So I've rode this roller coaster that everybody's riding right now. I think this is more extreme than anything I've seen. But when we had the banking crisis, we had a health club in Woonsocket. We had that health club for more than 30 years in Woonsocket. So we were at it for a long time. When the banking crisis hit, our revenues were reduced by almost 50% within 6 months. And yet the expenses continued the same level, the rent, the mortgage, the utilities. So we got our, backs pressed against the wall. And my advice to everybody is, through my experience, just be persistent. Never give up. We never give up. And I was fortunate. We were fortunate, our family, to work our way through that crisis, work our way through the internet bubble after 9/11, work our way through the real estate collapse in 2008 timeframe. It's a lot of work, but I think this is even more extraordinary because the things that have happened, Justin, have been out of our control, out of your control. And as a result of that, we need to step up. Denying grants because there's taxes that are due makes no sense, because those taxes, those grants could help pay the taxes that are due. It puts you in a better position to do that. So common sense should prevail here. And sometimes there's, common sense is not that common. So we'll follow up with you personally on that. I'd love to get more of the detail, and we'll kind of dive into those personal details offline. But you represent many, many businesses, and that's one of the next platforms that we're going to be working on after trying to get those dollars. I've been following this little chart here that I showed. There's money that was allocated, money that was awarded, but there's many, many millions of dollars that's still available on the cards that you got that still available on those dollars that could go to small businesses. And I was talking to Commerce yesterday about having a Restore Rhode Island 2 program and to address some of the shortfalls that you're talking about. We have one business right now in Rhode Island, been here 40 years, has real estate, 3 different, but were denied a pause grant, even though they were shut down because of some of the criteria that was set up to qualify. So we need to kind of work our way through that. So that's what we need from you, is as I'm advocating to pool these dollars, reallocate them now. The good news, Justin, we got more time, right? When the president signed that bill, that activated those CARES Act dollars can go now into 2021. And we can pool the dollars that were allocated but have not been awarded and to get help to you and other businesses that need the help. That's our plan. We'll see whether we can make that happen. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing that, that your story, your personal story. We'll follow up with you personally. Do you have anything else to say?
I just want to thank you all, and if there's anything I can do for you or Chris or anybody on your staff or in this coalition, please call me.
Yeah, we're going to get back to you. Our office will be getting back to you and get some particulars and see whether we can create a framework to help you and all the businesses that are in the spot that you're in through no fault of their own. It been a tough year. It's been a tough year to pay the bills, and that's why we need these grants to be awarded. Get into the next level, the SBA help, and then into the recovery that Chris has just talked about, supporting our local businesses. Justin, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
Yep. So I want to just echo that. 2020, it's been a challenging year. Early on, I can recall when we first started these programs, we were talking about, health being the number one, priority. It still is. Don't let your guard down. This is the time to find your way from a healthy spot to the vaccines, so that we can kind of open up the economy in a full throttle way. So we got to make sure that we pay attention to that. I still going to have these community conversations with each community, with their civic leaders and their elected leaders, to talk about the role that they can play. We had a fantastic call with Cranston the other day with Town Council Member Brady, who was a small business owner, and others that were from Cranston. And now they are actually working together to kind of create one central message about how do we keep the politics out of the safety and actually talk about the safety so that we can get into the next level of the economy. So that's a priority going into 2021. But I want to just thank everybody who has been involved in, allowing us to kind of be communicating to all of you. You continue to provide great ideas, helping small business, keeping us safe, and also making sure that our families who need help are getting the help. That's what our community conversations have been about on Wednesdays. So keep the ideas coming. Keep calling our office. We're continually answering the phone. And I do want to give a shout out to Ben, for his work, as Chris did. And yes, it has been a tough year for many, many people. COVID has taken many of our closest, have been impacted either physically or through passing. So I want to just reach out to everybody that has been impacted by the virus, not only in the small business area, but also health-wise and family-wise. We want to make sure that we're providing the support that's out there. Ben's just one example of losing a loved one to COVID, and we don't, so all my sympathies to all those families. And if there's ways that we can be of help, let us know. Our communities do get together, and I was talking on the Cranston show. I know the other ones I referring to 9/11. Communities come together during crisis. I think that that's the next step that we're going to be working on in 2021, is really to solidify in all 39 cities and towns, in all the communities that make up those communities, a solidified the community buy-in in a way that we've never seen before in the state of Rhode Island. And that's what I'm looking forward to in 2021. Very hopeful that great things are going to happen. So thank you all. Stay safe and join us with Community Conversation tomorrow night. And if not, we'll see you in 2021. It's going to be a good year. Oops, I can't hear you now.
I was.
Well, you hear-
Yeah,
How did my new microphone work? About the same, or is it a little bit better?
it sounds really nice. There's an issue with this computer where when you are by yourself, it
Yeah.
crackles. So I don't know what that. I was on screen every time you were on screen. I was on screen behind you with no camera on like this.
Oh, you were.
So that your microphone wouldn't crackle. It has nothing to do with the mic. It's something to do with that Chromebook.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not-
when I did on the other ones, I get the crackling when other people come on. So there's something maybe even in our Wi-Fi or something like that. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what it is either. But thank you very much for all the kind words. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, Ben, you made a good impression on many people, and